Behind me is a 2009 Porsche Cayenne. It's been my daily driver for the past 36 months, and I thought that I should share with you how much does it cost to own this old and heavy, previously very expensive SUV. Back in 2009 it was very expensive, luxurious and sporty off-roader, but in 2016 when I bought it, it had the same price as a new compact car. So instead of buying Ford Focus, I went and bought this, and now 3 years later I have something to tell to you about it. They are very expensive when new, and they are not so expensive when used, and the main reason is that they are quite expensive to maintain, or at least this is a popular opinion. So to lower my risks before buying it, I had three rules established. Rule number one was to buy a Cayenne with as low miles as possible. The second rule was to go with a V6 instead of V8. V8s are great fun, they are very powerful, but they are much more expensive to run and to maintain. And the third rule was to get one on the coil springs instead of the air suspension. Once again, the same reason. It is much less expensive to maintain than the one with the air suspension. And so this is what I bought, a 2009 Porsche Cayenne V6 on coil springs with 89,000 kilometers on the clock. And usually V6 with the coil springs, they come from the United States, because in Europe almost every Cayenne is with the air suspension. And the downside was that it was a salvage titled car. It had a front end damage, not very serious, but not so minor too. But the repair was done in a high quality, and 3 years later I cannot say anything bad about it. So my relationship with this Porsche Cayenne started with a breakdown only with 1 month into the ownership. The wires which are under the carpet, they corroded, and it's a thing that happens to this Cayenne so often. The water gets into the interior, after that it goes under the carpet, it stays there, and the carpet is very thick and you don't feel it on the upper side of the carpet that it's a swamp underneath it, and eventually those wires, they corrode and they don't work anymore, and the car, you know, is like electrical nightmare. It has all the different indicator lights flashing on the dashboard, and it doesn't start anymore. So it was only 30 euros with swapping the corroded wires with the new ones. My friends did it. You don't need a specialized dealership to do this job. It's just a matter of getting the old wires out and getting the new wires in. And once again it was only 30 euros. A month after that I noticed that my roof leaks, the water leaks into the car, and the reason was that maybe then they were painting the car, they had to remove the rail for the roof rack, and one of the rubber seals went missing, and you know, the water simply got into the car. So I bought some rubber at the hardware store, cut it, installed it, and after that with just €1 it was fixed, and no more issues with water in the car. 1 month later it would not start again. It was starting to be annoying, because it was only 2 months into the ownership, and the second time that the car would not start. It was a faulty starter solenoid. It had to be towed to the shop, 120 euros, and a week later it was driving well again. But you know, 2 months into the ownership, two breakdowns, after which I cannot drive it. You know, I thought it is a beginning of a very tough relationship. But after that it went quiet. Pretty much nothing broke down on me. I rebadged the trunk, I installed a set of lowering springs, not only because the stock springs were too high for me, but the rear of the car was quite sagged, and it had like a very weird stance. It was squatting and it looked ugly, so I swapped all the springs with a set of lowering H&R springs. 2 years later I'm still very pleased with how it looks and drives, and I'm very happy. I had a few minor breakdowns, like windscreen washers did not work because of the cracked pipe. I repaired it with some old rubber pipe I found in the garage. The fuel door lock did not work anymore, but it was only a matter of disassembling it and reassembling it, and you know, just putting some grease on it. Also, half a year ago, my tailgate stopped working. It would not open, but it was only a matter of a blown fuse. I've replaced it, and 6 months later, the fuse is fine and everything works, and I am very happy and pleased with it. And now the buzzer went out. You know the thing when you open the door, it beeps, or you leave your lights on and you take out the key and open the door, it beeps. So it's now silent, and I need to replace it because I don't want to leave my lights on. And it's 30 euros. I bought it already, but I haven't installed it. There was some maintenance costs involved into the owning of this Cayenne. I had 3 oil changes, 100 euros each. By an oil change, I mean that it's oil filter, air filter, and so I had to do it 3 times in the 3 years I've owned this car, so 300 euros in total. I also had to replace front brake pads, rear brake pads, rear brake rotors. The brake components go out quite fast on this heavy vehicle, so it's a part of the maintenance, nothing to be surprised about. It was around 200 euros for those brake pads and rear brake rotors. I also had to change automatic transmission fluid. I did it at a mark of 110,000 kilometers, not because something was wrong with the car, but it was just, time to do it. And after the shop done it, I've noticed, nothing. It was driving fine before it was driving fine after it, and everything is simply good. And the most expensive thing for this Cayenne is insurance. The full insurance is around 1,100 euros every year, so it's the most expensive thing. So 3 years later now, I understand that at some point I will need to sell it, and it's better to sell it before it breaks down in some very terrible way. It's better to sell it while it's in very good condition, like it is now. But again, I don't want to sell it for, 10,000 euros. I want to get at least 13,000 euros, and nobody really wants to buy it for 13,000 euros because people in this region, they prefer price over the condition, and they will buy a Cayenne with a high mileage for a cheaper price instead of the one with the lower mileage, but 20-30% more expensive. But anyway, at some point I will have to let it go and to get something new. It's just that I don't know what to get after it. I like this Cayenne. I'm just a little bit afraid of buying newer model because they're not that good quality like this one. So I hope you found some useful information in this video, and if you did, you can like it, you can share it, you can subscribe to the channel for more, and I will see you next time when I will be replacing that broken buzzer in the dashboard. Now it's freezing cold and I don't want to do it in these kind of temperatures. Thank you and see you next time.